What is going on, guys? This is Platinum Point, and I'm here to bring you guys yet again another Weiss Schwarz deck profile. This time it's on ReZero. This build is basically post Frozen Bond. This deck is probably one of my favorite updated builds of ReZero because it finally gives ReZero a solid finisher and a viable one in the form of the new Amelia that combos with the Goldbar. Overall, I like this deck. It's really good. The goal of this deck is to build compression while at the same time trying to win as many trades as you can in order to basically establish your end game board, which is usually 2 of the 3-2 Amelias or triple 3-2 Amelia. So this deck is pretty much facilitating the Puck and Amelia engine, since that's the only way you can make this build function. You cannot, like, I've tried splashing all the other cards from sets 1 and 2, and it was actually a nightmare to do. So you'll notice that this deck is a lot different from the original build. So before we get onto the deck profile, please hit the subscribe button and click on the notification and like this video for more content. I will be doing a reflection video on the Bushiroad Spring Fest after you see this video. So without further ado, let's get on to the deck profile. So for the Climax makeup, we're still playing 4 book and then 4 Goldbar. Now for the level 0s, we play 4 copies of the Pure and Innocent Amelia. This is basically the Armin free runner, but for ReZero. So you run this as a 4 of, since it's a 3K beat stick. Oh no, 3-5 oversize that runs to the center and helps you control the board state, especially with Dal, since they have a hard time running over 3-5. Next we play 4 copies of the Puck Joking Around. So what this Puck does is basically, if you remember the level 0 Izumi runner from Saikano, this Puck has the same second effect as the Izumi, which is pay 1, shove this into memory, and then you could check up to the top 4. But this one digs for either Puck or Amelia, and since this deck is majority of it, you are using this to dig deeper to get and basically get closer to refresh and get whatever pieces you need during that turn. Next, we play 3 copies of the Strengthened Bond Amelia. The reason why I play this is because I prefer playing the Salvage Brainstorm over the Tap 2 Search Brainstorm that's available for in the second set of ReZero, because since this deck digs a lot and searches, I needed some kind of way of salvaging, and I prefer a Salvage Brainstorm over a Search one. I know you could play the Betty one, but since I want to keep within the theme of Puck and Amelia, I'm playing this Brainstorm. Next, we play 2 copies of the Puck Ricky. I've been pivoting between 2 to 3 of this card, because this card is good throughout the game, since it just searches for the Amelia. But because it only searches for an Amelia card, I found it to be not necessarily kind of redundant, since these 2 kind of dig for the same thing. And you only need this in the clock in most cases just to get the plus 2k pump to help you run over certain lanes. And other than that, you're just using it for the Ricky, which is only good in certain situations. Next, we play 2 copies of the Resisting Against Fate Puck, which is your clean cut. We're running this at 2 because this is your main beat stick, and this is just a secondary beat stick that you can play going second. And since we're kind of tight on space, we're cutting this down to 2 rather than maxing it out at 4. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of Contract with a Lesser Spirit Amelia. So this is basically the 00 Rem and Ram Suicider, except this doesn't have the suicide effect. It has the second effect, which is an act ability, which is send this and discard a card from your hand and salvage a character. So this allows you to selectively pinpoint salvage whatever you need, and it has the effect on attack, give a magic or weapon character plus 15. So this gives you the necessary power to beat over lanes, and it's a good selective salvaging tool. And then moving on to the ones, we play 4 copies of the silver-haired beauty Amelia. So this is basically the Magro combo you remember from the previous videos. And if you're familiar with ReZero, this is basically your choice one step for this build. I know there's a Goldbar version of this and even the gold bag one, but I prefer this because it consistently gets through your deck and gets you into deck states that are much better, and it matches well with the memory compression strategy. Next, we play 2 copies of Considerate Warning Amelia, which is similar to the Checking for Attendance Rimuru, which is it gets the ability which has the ability, if you play an act ability, this gains the effect on reverse blind stock. So this is your main form of stock compression. I know in some ReZero builds they like to play the vanilla package. I've been testing that package, and that's one build that I'm currently entertaining, but I found that this build only works if you're trying to go for a more glass cannon build and not for a more all-around build. So that's why I prefer playing these, because it can be also good on defense as you're playing the 2K punch. Speaking of continuing on with the level 3s, we play 2 copies of the mono release Amelia. So this is a Clock Bomb Adachi. So the reason why we're playing this is Dal is such a tough matchup, and being able to just, instead of because I know there's a 1-0 puck that addresses the Dal matchup, but if Dal plays the 2-2 Kurumi, which is a discard encore, or if they were to encore that 2-2 Toka, which some situations they will, you pretty much went 1-for-1 on the trade, and they will have ability to crack back since the puck only gains power when you attack. So I wanted something that can address it, and an Adachi is a little bit better in my opinion, because this is a clock swap Adachi. So either way, they do get the scry, but the card that I get, that I slam into, will most likely go into the clock. So this will allow me to kind of trade them, because they get the 1 scry, but they lose that character and are forced to find other ways to play multiple. And this is good universally, even against level 3s, because being able to just clock swap them is just so much better. It's either sending them to the clock, stock, or bottom of the deck is usually ideal. And then we play 2 copies of the Amelia All Alone, which is your 1-1 Takitsubo. So this is a level 6 and a Takitsubo that pairs with the 2-1 puck, and when the 2-1 puck is on board and you have the 3-2 Amelia assist, you can actually send the 2-1 and the 1-1 to memory to play the early play the 3-2 Amelia from waiting room onto stage, and it's a hex proof immediately. So the only way they can handle it is if somehow you slam it to the front, which you're usually just keeping in the back line to boost, since it's a X boost times 1k equal to 1k times the level, so it's a much better level booster than this one. But you also use this for the selective searching, because it's selectivity, and it's better than this Ricky, which is why I've been tempted to actually cut this, since the Takitsubo does the same thing. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of the 2K backup puck. So that's it for the level 0s and 1s. Let me just move those aside. Next, we're going on to the level 2s. So we play 1 Caring Disposition Amelia. So this is the Lifa backup. The reason why I play a Lifa counter is being able to crisis manage with it is just nice. And we play the Yukata anti-early play backup, which is a bottom deck backup, which is you just there to threaten early plays, and this to threaten board states and mitigate damage. Next, we play 2 copies of Call My Name Puck. So this pairs with the Takitsubo Amelia. So if you have both of them on board with this in the waiting room, you can essentially just swing with the puck first after you play it, because it does get the ability on reverse, discard, and re-rest it. And then on your next turn, if the 3/2 is still in your waiting room, you can pay 1, send these 2 to the waiting room, and play the Just Amelia from the waiting room onto stage and salvage a card. So what the puck is there for is just to be a body when you first cast it, because it becomes a 9k body, and when it gets reversed, like I said, you discard a card, re-rest it, and then with these 2 you just compress even further and just gain so much advantage. So speaking of the 3-step, we play 1 copy of the Desperate Resistance Amelia. So this is your secondary finisher. I was testing because I noticed in some cases if I don't have the gold bar, I need some way of closing the game. So I decided to play the Desperate Resistance Amelia. So this is basically powered up Explosion Megumin, except it doesn't have the on-play free play. Instead, it's an on-play heal, which is fine. But you're using this for the burn 5 since it does push for more damage and potentially can close the game out depending on your opponent's deck state. And speaking of Just Amelia, we play 2 copies since this is kind of the trend with this deck. And we play 2 copies of the Believe That Time Will Come Puck, which is the early play stock heal. The reason why I'm only playing 2 is because I wanted to fit room for a secondary finisher. Most builds play 3, but I'm testing 2 right now, just so we can have more consistency in having multiple opportunities to close the game. And then lastly, we play 4 copies of the Contractor in Spirit Amelia and Puck. So this combos with the gold bar. So when the gold bar is in play, it gains the following 2 abilities. If it reverses an opponent's character, you can clock kick it. If it direct attacks, you can discard burn 2. So what this deck does is essentially you're trying to establish a board which is like this. And whatever backliner is here. So if you have a hand of like 3 cards, we'll say these are 3 blanks, you're essentially going to be putting this Amelia in front of these 2 Amelias in front and this to an open lane. So you want this Amelia to swing in first or second. You either want this to swing first or last depending on the board state, because you want these 2 to kind of just push for damage, like close the game out. So you would front with this, clock kick, and if your opponent's at 2 to 4 damage, you would then do this one, discard 2 to burn 2 to force the cancel, and if they don't cancel and they cancel on the 4, this will give you 2 instances of damage, which is a pay 3, pay 3, discard 2, burn 5. So you essentially just want to have a board state where you have basically 1 stock here. So when you swing in, that's 2. You swing in, that's there. And then you swing, discard, burn. So you want to be able to have multiple instances of damage. And with this is essentially 6 instances of damage. You can even do it this way, where you can do the double clock kick and a burn 5. So either variation of the board, of that killing board, should ideally close the game. I haven't run the numbers specifically on a spreadsheet yet, but I'm planning on doing that just so I can see kind of what does the data say about this card and what's the likelihood of it sticking. But the goal of this deck is essentially just rush your opponent down while compressing your deck into a state where you can live off your opponent's crackbacks while essentially setting up for your kill turn. So I hope you guys like this deck profile. I will be doing a reflection video on BCS, the Spring Fest, the online Spring Fest, because it actually went pretty okay for me. I did pretty good, and I wanted to talk about what are my thoughts on it, from what I kind of learned from that experience, as well as showcase my updated Data Live deck, because I piloted Data Live to the Spring Fest. So I hope you guys like this deck profile. I know we did a little bit of rambling here and there, but I just wanted to keep this showcase what this deck can do, and hopefully you can see some matches. I'm planning on recording some matches with this deck to showcase what this deck can do. So the next video that you'll see is the reflection on Springfest, as well as an update on my Data Live deck. Another thing I might do is a Kaguya-sama list, or even actually I might save that for a table tech. I might do another table tech on Kaguya-sama. Probably the next deck profile that you'll see after the Data Live is probably going to be an update on my Fate Grand Order list, because I have been tinkering with Fate, and I want to showcase what that deck can do after extensive theory crafting and deck testing. So once again, this is Platinum Point. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like this video, and my goal is to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. So let's shoot for that. Once again, this is Platinum Point. Stay on point. Peace out, YouTube.